All right, you're coming live to us on the Get Busy Livin Podcast. We've got an awesome guest this morning, and you're watching Dr. Scott from Sixth Sense Acupuncture and the Healthy Habits Club. And thank you so much, our wonderful guest, Candice Harvey. Appreciate your time and coming on and giving us some gold nuggets today.
Oh, no pressure. No pressure. Gold nuggets. Absolutely. No, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know how much your time is precious, and I've been watching your videos, and they're very inspirational. I appreciate your time. So I'll kick off the podcast with my first question. So tell us, Candice, what gets you out of bed every morning?
Oh, I love this question. What gets me out of bed? I honestly do feel that, and I was thinking about it, because you obviously don't think about it every single day. You kind of just get into your own little habits. But I think for me, my biggest fear is actually getting to the end of my life and wishing that I lived my life better, or wishing that I did what I'd always wanted to do, or even like wishing I prioritized what mattered most. And I really feel that for me, each and every day, it's just about living the best life that I can absolutely live, and also leading by example for my clients, for even friends and family, knowing that if I really want all people around me to be having this incredible life, then it kind of does start with me. So I think that's a really big part. But I even remember, it was probably about 5 years ago, I read the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. Have you ever heard of that book?
No. 5 Regrets of the Dying. Bronnie Ware.
It's an incredible book, and I make sure that I read it every year, to be honest. It was a really huge wake up for me. And it's an Australian book, and it's written by a palliative care nurse. And she basically shares stories of the people that she interacted with who are on their deathbed, so people wishing that they just hadn't worked so much, or wishing they stayed in touch with their friends. And even when I'm actually repeating it, and I've read this book so many times, I still get goosebumps, because you don't want that for anyone, especially for yourself, but to get to the end of the life and think, God, I wish I did things differently, or I wish I did more. So I think, in answer to your question, it's really what gets me out of bed every morning, is knowing that we honestly, I think, have one shot at this thing called life. I'm pretty sure. And I want to absolutely make the most of it. So that's what gets me out of bed.
So what's it called again? The book?
The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware.
The top
5. Got to get your hands on it. It's a great book.
Okay, it's here. Okay. I listened to Audible, so...
I'm sure it's on Audible.
Putting it on my wish list.
Yeah, put it on there. And then, no. Yeah.
Bronnie Ware, so BRONNIE for the audience. Bronnie Ware, WARE.
That's it.
Appreciate it. So that's awesome. That's awesome. A mentor, an old mentor of mine, he actually told me, if you write your own eulogy, that'll change your life too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? That's really sort of fast forwarding, get to the end. But it is, I think so often we get into this habit of just going through the motions Monday to Friday without really thinking, what is the best day that we can actually have today, or what would make an absolutely incredible week? We always have these mammoth to-do lists, and we get on autopilot a little bit and just start smashing through bits and pieces that we need to do, instead of taking that time to pause and actually asking ourselves, like, what matters most? Like, what do I care about? What gets me excited? What should I be focusing on? I think the more that we can stop and reflect on that, the better life will be each and every day.
Oh, definitely. Talk to ourselves. The language that we use to ourselves is very important. Definitely. I agree with that. Totally. I was guilty of it for many, many years. It's only in the last few years that I've started to realize that the way that I speak to myself is, and that goes for everyone. If everyone spoke to themselves positively, wow, we'd have a very positive community. So, all right, Candice. So I'll move on to the second question. So, tell us, how did you get into coaching? Because you do more than just coaching. You do a few things. You're You help leaders. You're a team achieving great. You help teams to achieve greatness. You're an EDISC certified facilitator by the looks, and you're a keynote speaker, and you facilitate workshops as well.
I do.
You do more than just coach people. You do a fair few things. So tell us how you got into that. How did you get into that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I will. So I guess, with all the different bits and pieces that I do now, and you're right, I coach people one-on-one, from CEOs to stay-at-home mums, all over, like real different array of people that I actually coach. And I work with businesses as well. So I go into workshops and I run team workshops to get them thinking differently. I have even an online program that's to help people get their life into balance, and all different bits and pieces. But I guess the common theme with everything that I do is it's all with the intention of helping people perform better than they're currently performing, both in and out of the workplace. So I call myself a performance coach, and that's really what I do at the moment. I absolutely love it. But I guess prior to starting my business in 2018, I actually worked in HR. So I worked in HR for 15 years. And I worked all over the place. I worked in Houston, Texas for a while. I worked in London for a while. I did fly in, fly out here in Queensland. So in Gladstone, I did a lot. And I guess throughout my entire HR career, I'd been coaching. So supporting employees and managers to really achieve what they want to achieve, and also enjoy the place that they were spending majority of their time, which is at work. And I absolutely loved that part of my job, helping people to think differently, seeing the changes that they were making in the workplace, realizing their potential Monday to Friday. And so I actually just decided to make that small part of my job within HR, so the coaching part, the entire part of my job. So I started my own coaching business, and I've been professionally coaching since 2018. So like I said before, I work with business owners, I work with professionals, with employees, both men and women. The youngest that I've coached so far has been 18, and the oldest has been 78. And I still love that story, because my 78-year-old man made an appointment to talk to me, and I had no idea what he wanted to talk to me about. But when we sat down, he just said, "Candice, I want to start being more me." That was it. At 78 years of age, he wanted to start being more himself, and he didn't know how to actually do that. So it's a big chunk of what I do is helping people to understand themselves a lot more, because if we don't actually know who we are, and we don't keep up with who we are, because it changes so often. I don't know about you, Dr. Scott, but the person that I was even a year ago is very different to the person that I am today. So if we don't keep up with that, we start to feel very out of alignment, and life feels uncomfortable, and life can feel unsatisfying. So I am obsessed with human behavior, mainly why people do what they do, but also why people don't do what they wish they could do. And so it's all about the work that I do is applying principles of human behavior to help individuals and businesses manage stress, improve their self-talk, exactly like what you were talking about before. Quite often the words that we use and the way that we think completely gets in the way of us having an incredible life. Like we get in the way of ourselves, the stuff that we say, and it's really catching that, or understanding that the effects that can actually have on you, but really helping people to navigate high pressure environments, because this day and age, especially in 2024, it's a little bit hectic, isn't it, Dr. Scott? So we need to we need to know how to navigate that and help ourselves with procrastination and overwhelm and self-esteem, and really just so that I can get my clients out of their own way, so that they can get back to creating and living a life that they absolutely love. That's what I do.
So can I backtrack a little bit? So how did you get into HR? How did you get into your 15 years? How did you get into that? Did you just sort of fall into it, or did you study for it? Or
look, I wish there was a really exciting story with HR, but it was one of those things where I finished school and I didn't know what to do after school, Dr. Scott. Like, I don't know, there are these rare people who seem to, finish school and they know exactly what they want to do. I was not one of those, but my dad had always had his own businesses, and he was very successful in what he did. And I always was interested in business. I loved the stories that we'd have at the dinner table, where he'd talk about hiring someone new, or the problems that he was having with staff, or training, all that sort of stuff. So I literally just went, I think I'll go do a business communications degree. and which was like I think it was a 3-year degree. 3 years, very long time ago now, so it's a little bit hurting my brain. And then I think it was just towards the end where you had to choose a major in that degree, and it was like marketing or public relations or HR, which I'd never really heard of. And I went, that'll do. I'll do HR. So I finished my degree. I went to uni in Brisbane. And then straight after I finished my degree, I went overseas. I bought a one-way ticket to London, and I started trying to get myself into a HR job. So I started right at the bottom in HR administration, working for a global company, which was the best opportunity ever. And from there, over the next 15 years, just worked my way up. But honestly, I picked something is how I feel about it. But I still look back at it, and it was such a brilliant, I guess, foundational role to get into, you know, when it is HR and I was dealing with people, and it gave me so much insight into, I guess, the work that I'm absolutely doing now. But yeah, I just loved being the go-to for people in businesses. Yeah.
Oh, the reason why I went back that far, because usually what happens to us when we're younger usually shapes what happens to us later.
Yeah.
And like you said, you witnessed your father, and majority of the population don't get to see their parents have a business. There is a certain stage, but so you were lucky in a way because you got to witness what the turmoil and also the joys of owning a business for your father, and you saw that there's potential in helping employees in people's businesses.
Yeah.
And you could see that was an issue at the time, and that you could do some. It took you all over the world, so that's magic. So what happened with England? Did you just get on a plane, go over, or did you have a job to go to, or what happened there?
Yeah, I pretty much. It's the best thing that happens, Dr. Scott, when you're young and you're naive and you have no idea what you're actually doing, is that when I finished university and I broke up with my, love of my life. He was not really, but and you think that when you're really young as well. So broke up with my boyfriend at the time on the phone and got myself a one-way ticket and said to mum and dad, I'm going to move to London. And I think they actually thought that she'll be back in a month or so. Like, I don't even think I knew what I was doing, to be honest. But yeah, went over there and I ended up being there for just over 5 years, being in London, living there and getting a full-time job. And a lot of Aussies that, do what I did, I suppose, in terms of either going straight over after school or going straight over after you have your degree. You get London pub jobs or just crappy Aussie jobs so that you can travel a lot. But I did it a little bit differently. I really immersed myself and got myself a serious career that then took me to Houston, Texas. So the company that I was working for after the 5 years, I remember the day that they sat me down and said, we've got this opportunity for you. We'd love you to be able to go over to Houston, Texas, if that's something that you'd like to do. And they initially said, we just want you to go over for a few months to help with a recruitment campaign that they were doing over there. And I ended up staying for a year. They extended me. And yeah, it was one of those sliding door moments, I think, at the end of even my Houston, Texas chapter, because they literally said to me, we're happy for you to stay on in Houston, Texas, if that's what you want to do. We're also happy for you to go back to London if London's what you want to do. Or we have an opportunity for you to go to Gladstone in Queensland and head up the HR function there for the LNG project. So a lot of, oil and gas that was going on in Gladstone. And look, I don't know what was going on, but I picked Gladstone. That's what I picked. So not London, not Houston, Texas. I was ready to go back home after being away for like 8 or so years. So I went back home, and in all honesty, it was the best opportunity for my career because it was a lot of responsibility, a lot of great exposure. And then, I always look back at that job knowing that I finished up Gladstone. I got a really great job in Brisbane after that. And that job is what introduced me to my husband. So it all sort of worked out beautifully when you look back at it. So, yeah. That's what happened.
So I've been to Gladstone a few times. It's not far from Town and Sands and Town 1770. Beautiful place, absolutely magic.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah.
So did you enjoy your time in Texas? Because that would be out of this world for me. it would have been a change. Like you went from probably one of the coldest places on Earth, and then you went to one of the hottest places, and they say it's a very dry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It literally feels like someone's turned the heater on, and the hot air just blows on you all the time when you're in Houston, Texas. But it was such a change to go from London, and London, for those of you listening as well, that you're on the train and all the tubes and stuff in London, and there's so many people all the time, and no one really talks to each other in London. It can be a bit miserable with the weather. And then you go to Houston, Texas, and everyone was so insanely friendly. And I remember, because I walk everywhere, I'm a walker, I love walking, and it was really hot day, and I walked to the supermarket, and no one walks in Houston. And I think I had about 4 people pull over and literally ask me if I was okay, because it was so strange to see someone walking in the heat. And I was so weirded out, because no one talks to you in London. Everyone has their head down, and then all of a sudden I'm in this super friendly, hot place where they're asking me if they want to, if I need a lift to go to the supermarket, because I was standing out. But yeah, it was a great experience, even where I actually worked, because it was an engineering construction company. And I remember my very first day at the office, and there was a big sign on the outdoor saying, make sure that you leave your weapons at reception. And I was like, my weapons? What? So it was all guns, and everything surprisingly weren't allowed to be taken to your desk. They had to be left at reception. So I was like, where am I living? What am I doing? But it was an incredible experience. Being there, it was great.
Oh, so I do know a bit about Texas. They for their firearm laws, you can't conceal a weapon. So if you're carrying a weapon, you have to make sure it's visible, that people can see it. You can't conceal it. So whereas other states you have to conceal it, and here you have to conceal it here in Australia. But obviously you got to have a permit. And that blew me away. I was like, really? You got to show people? It's like the Old West. You see my 6, my 6 coming up. It's about. I get why they do it, because obviously then people can't surprise you with a weapon in your face.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
sort of. Yeah, and I can imagine how you would. Yeah, because you go to England, they don't have firearms either. They're not allowed to have firearms.
No, it wasn't really in my world, the whole firearm thing. So it definitely shocked me and made me question, why am I here, for a little bit. But that's just the way they are, the way they live, just different.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you come to Gladstone, and how long did you work in Gladstone for? So they got the gas
3 years.
lines.
Yep. Yeah. So I was on Curtis Island, and you had to get the ferry over, and I ended up living in camp. So there was it was men living on camp as well, and a handful of women, and I was the HR lead out there. So it was a pretty tough chapter in my life, especially going from where I was traveling the world, doing a lot of that sort of, fun stuff, to then living on a construction site for 3 years. And it really was one of my lowest points in my life as well, because it was just such a shock to the way that I'd been living. And, I was working 6 days a week, and it was just super challenging. Wearing, even steel cap boots and high vis all the time. It wasn't exactly a glamorous role, and I stood out being female and all those sort of things. So it was a lot of challenges. There wasn't a lot of exhaling for 3 years, is the best way that I actually describe it. It was kind of holding my breath a lot, because it was just such a big chapter. But it definitely made me realize what it is that I actually want, what I don't want. And that was where I sort of made my transition to Brisbane, and started a very different chapter in terms of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to focus on. It got me into personal development, and realizing that coaching and helping people to live the best life that they can live, not just feeling like they have to do what they've always done. And that kind of started to become a thing for me. I was like, I'm a HR person. If you look at my resume, it's all I've ever done. I work in HR, and if I'm not having a good time at HR, well, too bad, so sad, suck it up, And it definitely wasn't the case. It was a moment of trusting yourself and working out what is it that you love. And for me, it was absolutely coaching people. and that it is okay to start something absolutely fresh and be even more successful than I was, thinking that that's all that I could do back then too. So now I get to help people with that.
I was just thinking that's a huge step to go from HR personnel high up as an executive.
Yeah.
And then to jump out in business on your own.
Yeah. I remember actually even telling my dad, because my dad obviously, like I said, was very good in business and very successful in business. And I remember having that discussion with my husband saying, I really want to start my own business and I really want to give it a go. And I was probably at the peak in my HR career too. So you work your way up for 15 years. And I really was at that position that I always dreamed of being, managing a national team. And I was working in a not-for-profit organization at that stage and earning really good money. And then I decided that I'm going to go out and start my own business. And I remember telling my dad, and he looked at me like, why? What are you doing? Like, you've done so bloody well, and now you're about to chuck it all in the bin, And it was a hard one to explain to dad too, where it was like, I'm just not loving it. And I think, I say this a lot to friends as well when I'm talking about it, like generationally, that's not something that my mum and dad ever would have done at the age that I was. Like, it's not like, oh, you're not happy, you just change careers and start a job with no money, like it's just not what you would do back then. But it's very different now. People are very picky and choosy. And so starting from scratch was huge. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And like I could see where your father's coming from, because he had a business himself and he knows the trials and tribulations of business. And he's like, what are you doing? You're like you said, most people would just go to another job. But if you're not happy with what you're seeing and what you're doing, and I mean, 15 years, that's a long time. The other thing is, I think it was Zig. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Who said this? I'm quoting. I'm pretty sure it was Zig Ziglar, and he said you either start looking after your own dreams, or you start looking after someone else's dreams. So that for me, that was like, oh, okay, okay, now I get it.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, and I honestly am my biggest advocate for this, and I talk a lot about this. I do not believe that the only way to have happiness and fulfillment is to leave a corporate job and to have your own business. I wholeheartedly don't believe that. And I have, even clients come to me and say that they want to start their own business because they want freedom and they want flexibility. And I'm like, great, you probably won't get that by being a business owner. I think that we can sometimes live in a bit of a dreamland, thinking that having your own business is the best thing. And I'm not saying that it's terrible, but it is freaking hard work as well. Like, I look at the 15 years that I worked in HR, I thought I worked really hard, and then I started my own business. Holy shit, that's working hard. Like, that's where your brain never switches off. You're constantly on, your finances go up and down. You can have incredible months and scary months, and it's a lot, So I truly believe it's not for everybody. But it is about working out what is most important to you in your life and what will support that. And that can be a really big question, but it's it's just, I really always just want to make sure that's the point, that leaving a job is not always the answer for a lot of people.
So you obviously moved out of hot old Gladstone, and where'd you go to? Where'd you end up?
So I did the very dramatic quit my job in Gladstone with no job to go to, and had a year off actually, and went completely traveling. So I went to South America and went and lived in India and went back to the States, and honestly had 12 months of just traveling. I think I was pretending and telling myself I was finding myself, but I wasn't. I was just having a serious break from doing fly in, fly out for as long as I had. But it was an incredible year. But then, moved back to Brisbane and got a job in manufacturing, which was great. I would probably not have got that job if I didn't have the experience that I had in Gladstone. And so I'd been away for a really long time. My family were very happy to have me back in Brisbane. And then the company that I started working for, I met my future husband. And my future husband lived in South Australia. So I said to my family, it was really great being back in Brisbane, everybody. I'm in love and I'm moving to Adelaide. So I did stay very long in Brisbane, but yeah, that was a little while ago now. It was about 8 years ago now. So married, have a business, all of that, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, that's yeah. You don't mind traveling by the sound, so. And
no, love it. Yeah, love traveling. Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like you had a gap year. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, probably I was like too old to have a gap year. I'm not sure you're meant to have a gap year at the age that I was, but yeah, that's exactly what I did. But yeah, I think just doing the fly in, fly out work, which I was earning bucket load of money, like a lot of people do when they're in those mining jobs. And I knew that I could very easily have just kept doing it and earning a lot of money and seeing my bank account go up. And it was just, I didn't know what I wanted to go into, but I knew it wasn't that. So it was having a big break from it and yeah, starting again.
So yeah, okay. So you've been in South Australia. So tell us a bit more. So did you just start out with one-to-one coaching first, and then worked your way into workshops?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Yeah. So when I first started my business, it was purely just one-on-one coaching, and I was like, I love this. This is the best, and I had a really big client base as well. So financially, I was like, this is awesome. It was exhausting. But it was awesome. It was something that I was really enjoying doing. And I was actually coaching a CEO of an IT company at the time, and he had a big team. And he said to me, Candice, can you do what you do in front of my team? Like, it was really vague. And I was like, you want me to do what I do in front of your team? Like, what exactly would you like me to do? And he's like, just be you. Do something inspiring, give them some sort of information that motivates them to be better than they're currently being, and do it in front of my team. And I remember being a little bit hesitant. I was like, oh, this isn't really what I want to do. I think I was a bit scarred from the corporate life. Like, I didn't really want to go back into dealing with teams after having worked in HR for 15 years. But I said yes. I put something together. It was like a 2-hour workshop, and it was a bunch of IT people as well. So I was like, oh, this is going to be a bit of a challenge, Candice Harvey. Let's see how you go in getting in front of a whole bunch of IT nerds. I was about to say, that's very rude. They're very cool people, but IT people. And they absolutely loved it. And I walked out of the conference room, and I remember calling my husband, and I was like, I want to do that forever. Like, that was so much fun. Dealing one-to-many was such a great thing as well. And seeing the learnings and the engagement and the participation and all that sort of stuff, I was like, this is what I want to do. So I'm very grateful for that client that I had back then who pushed me into that opportunity. And now it's the biggest part of my business. I still do one-on-one, but now I go to all different types of businesses and with teams that have very different challenges, whether it's, they've gone through a lot of change, or they're feeling a little bit complacent, or they're not sure what they should be focusing on, or if there's confidence issues within the teams, whatever it is. I run very different workshops depending on what's going on. And I love it. Just getting people to think very differently about the work that they're doing. Yeah.
And also workshops, you do that for business owners too, obviously.
Yeah.
Not just teams, but you also do like business
owner. Yeah, exactly right. Workshops. Yeah. Yeah. The whole mix. Yeah.
Which do you enjoy more? Is it the team workshops or the individual business owners workshops?
Yeah. I really do love all of it. I feel like you're asking me to choose my favorite child here. I really do love all of it.
Sorry.
And we don't have favorites, do we, Dr. Scott? We don't have favorites.
I'll hand the baby back to the proper mother then. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But no, I really love the teams, to be honest. Like, running team workshops is something that I love. And I think the reason, even as I was just saying that to you before, I think the reason I love that is because when I think back to myself being in a team and working in an organization, as weird as it sounds, I wish I had someone like me back then. I wish I had someone that would come in with my other colleagues and help me to think differently about how I was showing up every day, the work that I was doing, how to be more efficient, how to enjoy my life more in the workplace, outside of the workplace. And I didn't have that, so I love that I get to be that person for people now. I get to help them, feel rejuvenated and feel like they are doing an exceptional job, and give them the tools to equip them to not feel as overwhelmed each and every day as they do. So it's a really rewarding role, especially when I see all the light bulb moments that I have in the faces of people who are listening, because they have no idea what the workshop's going to be about. They're just turning up because their boss told them they had to. I'm very aware of that. But a lot of the time when I start talking and they're scribbling down notes and you see all the aha moments and all the beautiful feedback that I get after every single workshop, it's it's pretty cool that this gets to be my full-time job now. It's awesome.
That's pretty cool. So you've done well. So I'll just ask you, tell us a testimonial or a group of people that you've helped, or business with a group of people that you've helped to increase their success.
Oh, God, great question. Look, there's a lot of businesses that I work with ongoing, which is always a really great testimonial for me. So I don't just go into a business once, they get me to come back again and again, which is really, really cool. Even just recently, I was working with TAFE Queensland, and one of the ladies who was in the actual group, she's a learning and development person, which is really cool, right? So her job is actually to help train and engage all of the staff at TAFE. And she was sitting in on my workshop. So she was obviously learning from someone else who does similar things to her. And she actually said to me at the end, that was the best use of 2 hours in terms of my professional development that I've ever had in my career. And that blew me away. That was really cool for her to think that she probably initially attended a session with me and thinking, like, I know this stuff. Like, I'm just going to attend because the rest of my colleagues are there. And she actually walked away from it saying that that was something that she'd never experienced in her entire career as a learning and development person herself. So that's pretty great. But yeah, I think that when teams, even just recently I got back from Melbourne because a company got me there earlier in the year to set them up for success so that they were really clear on what they needed to do as a team for 2024. And they got me in just recently because it's their final quarter of the year and they want to be able to finish it off strong. And in their minds, they're like, we need Candice Harvey. So that's always something that I absolutely love, that once people get to know me and the teams get comfortable with me, they want me to keep coming back to be that person that helps them grow and develop and evolve collectively as a team, but also as individuals. So yeah, that's pretty great. All
right, now that's good. So tell us your favorite or the best one-to-one coaching success story you've got.
Oh my goodness.
I know you got to pull out the memory banks. I know.
The memory bank, it's the favorite child, it's all that sort of stuff. I think, it's a random one, but so many people come to me because they can't sleep. And I always find this fascinating. So, the type of people that I attract are people who literally want to be able to perform better than they're currently performing, whether it's in work or outside of work. So there's a bunch of different reasons as to why people come to me. But there is often a lot of people who say that they can't sleep. And the reason they can't sleep is because they are so overwhelmed. And the reason that they're so overwhelmed is because they have no idea what their priorities are. And the reason they have no idea what their priorities are is because they actually don't know how to manage their workload. And if they don't know how to manage their workload, it oozes into all areas of their life and they just feel complete garbage all over. And if you're feeling complete garbage all over, you're not sleeping, right? So sometimes I worry that my messaging is that I'm like this sleep psychologist, which I'm not. I have no experience in sleep whatsoever, but it always comes up that people are very, very tired. And if you meet me, and you have met me in person, Dr. Scott, as well, I have a shitload of energy. I have a lot of energy. So I think people come to me and they're like, whatever Candice Harvey has, whatever she does, I need to just follow along a little bit, right? So they come to me, they have those problems. And honestly, 2 weeks in, it's usually around that 1 week, 2 week mark. The feedback I get constantly is, Candice, I'm sleeping. And I do think they think I'm a sleep specialist, which I'm not. But the amount of the work that we actually do, where I really simplify the complications that we have in our head, because as human beings, we love to complicate. We love to make things feel bigger and dramatize things way more than they are. And I love to get into people's lives, figure out what is really going on, what they actually care about, what their focuses need to be over the 90 days and what doesn't. And as a result of pulling everything back, stripping everything back, they realize how much more time they have, and they get to start looking after themselves, which means that they sleep better. So this cool knock-on effect is one of my favorite things, that people actually go, I'm sleeping as a result of working with the performance coach. So that's always a really cool thing. So I love those ones.
Well, yeah, because it's going to come up eventually, yeah, especially when you're trying to assess where they are in their business. They're going to tell you straight up, usually, not always, but usually they're going to tell you that, yeah, I'm tired all the time. That's why I just can't keep up with the business, and it's starting to, because and that comes back to a point that all business owners find it difficult to face, is that we can't do it all ourselves. We need to get
Yeah, exactly right. And we all know, like, you know, because I work with business owners as well. I work with employees, I work with leaders, all different types of people. And it doesn't matter how experienced you are. It doesn't matter how successful you are. And obviously success means different things to different people. It doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account. If you are tired, you are crap, right? Like, you are not able to show up and be the best you that you can be. And if you're not showing up being the best you that you can be, life feels ordinary. So it has the biggest impact. So we need to be able to see that I'm not sleeping, I'm feeling really stressed out, I have no idea how to get myself out of this hole, and get yourself support. The moment people have that support, whether it's with someone like me doing what I do, whether it's someone like you doing the work that you do, but reaching out and realizing I can't do this on my own, I need to be able to have someone on my team that can help me, and things start to change dramatically, which is pretty cool. I love that.
That's cool. And so that's one thing that I saw on your profile. Actually, so what's an eDisc? You're eDisc certified. What does that mean?
So eDisc profiling is what I do with all of my one-on-one clients. I also run a workshop where I do it for the entire team. So it's all about looking at what your behavior is. So it's really digging into how you are naturally. So you can fall into a number of different areas, whether you are someone who is like me, has a lot of energy, very hyperactive. I'm a certain personality type, and that's called an I personality type. You can be someone who is very results orientated. Pardon?
Influencer?
Yeah, it can also be called that. Yeah, look at you, gold star, exactly like that. Yeah.
Disc. I know disc profiling.
Yeah. So if you know that,
heard of it. I've never heard of it put as eDisc.
And I'll explain that. So it's a bit different, right? So it's standard disc. If you think about, you've got your influencer, you've got your dominant, so they're all your results orientated people. You've also got your C, so conscientious, but they're all your detail orientated people who love the specifics, people who are very into the tiny little bits. Not me at all. It's my husband, which is funny. Opposites attract, but have to be into the detail. And then you have your beautiful S-type people. So they're very, very steady people. That's the real motherly type of people, very caring, very conscientious, all those kinds of things as well. So the extended, though, is where we look at how you naturally show up and what your behavior would be if you were just your complete best self, right? So no one's around, it's who you are. And we actually compare it to how you're showing up today. So there usually is a little bit of a change, right? So you can actually see in the profiling what's going on in someone's life. Are they actually in a job that's feeling like it's very stressful? Are they in a job where they're bored? Are they in a personal situation where they're feeling like they're exhausted at the end of the day because it's actually not matching up to how they are naturally? So it's a really great topic to be able to do whenever, to be honest, but to get really clear on, oh, that's why I'm feeling not as great, or that's why I'm feeling exhausted, because we have to really get to know ourselves, know how we work best, know when we have to look after our energy, when we don't, and then we can actually start from there and play around with it, make tweaks in our life, be able to adjust it. So even for me, because I am so high I on the profile that there's actually no more room on the page, right? So what that means is that I can be around people all day, every day, and Candice Harvey doesn't get exhausted, right? So being in the job that I am right now, where I am, honestly on my phone all the time with my one-on-one clients. I'm in front of people doing workshops. I'm at speaking gigs. I'm even doing my own podcast, all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, I'm good. I still have a lot of fuel in my tank. But if you are someone who is quiet, who is reserved, who doesn't love being around people all the time, and they've decided to start up a business and a business that involves a lot of people, they are going to be absolutely exhausted. And a lot of the time they're not sure why. And so that's not to say that you pack in the business and you don't become a business owner, but it is to know that, so if that's how I am, behaviorally, if I don't have loads of energy all the time and I'm saying that I want to do this type of work, how do I look after myself? How do I set myself up for success so that I can still do that, but not have nothing in the tank at the end of the day? So it's a really cool way to be able to look at why you're feeling the way that you're feeling and what are the changes that we need to make so that you can start performing better than you're currently performing.
Well, yeah, that's right. So I've learned about this. So you have your natural state, and usually you're more than just one.
Yes.
If you're an influencer, you might be more dominant or steady. Yep. It's very rare that you'll get the opposite that is higher.
Yeah.
Usually they're a bit psychologically challenged, I found. If they're opposite, the two opposites are high. But you're right. So then, and that makes it easier to employ people because you know what their strengths are going to be, and also there is their adaptive ability as well.
Yeah.
So they might be a natural influencer dominant, but then they've adapted that steady or conscientious trait in their workplace.
Yep. Absolutely. And you've got to be aware of the people that you're working with as well. If they are someone that, needs to have information given to them with loads of time, right? And then that brings out the best in them. Or if you're working with someone who loves to have a bit of chit chat, or if you have to work with someone who just likes to have the facts and that's it, like to get the best out of people, it's understanding how people best operate and how they perform at their best. And that's when you get a lot of gold, especially within a team. But for me, with my clients, it helps me to understand them so quickly in the very first session, where it's like I can adapt myself to interact with them in the best way so that they get the best out of coaching as well. So it's it helps so much.
All the big, and you would probably this is where you probably learned it from. All the massive companies, they use disc profiling to put their employees in the right positions, because you don't want to put a dominant in a frontline position that's about helping people.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they're like, I don't want to do this. I want to sit in a desk and tell everyone what to do.
Exactly.
So it's the same with the influencers. They're not going to want to read through a contract and make sure.
Oh, shoot me. No, please. No, and that's the thing. So we can do it. And that's what I love about eDisc as well. So it's not about, oh, well, you're an I, so you can't read a contract. Oh, well, you're a C, so then you can't be in front of people. You absolutely can, but it's going to affect your energy. It's going to affect your energy. So if I have a day where I've got to do all my finance stuff and I'm in reports, I'm at the end of the day, Dr. Scott, and I'm actually exhausted because I'm so bored of staring at Excel or looking at numbers or whatever it is. Like that actually kills me, to a point where my husband comes home and he's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, oh, I've had such a boring day. And that will exhaust me, as opposed to, doing all the things that I absolutely love. So you can do it, but you've just got to be more aware of the impact that it's going to have on you as well.
And exactly right. And also your employees as well. And how, and if you're an employee, you can also see how your employee colleagues, how it's going to affect their day as well.
Yes, exactly.
It helps a lot. I do.
It's amazing. Yeah.
All right. You've done really well. We're almost up to 45 minutes. So I'll move on. So is there anything else you want to say about your business that you want to bring up?
Oh, just that I love it, Dr. Scott. I absolutely love being able to do what I do. But yeah, that's pretty much it. All
right. And so I'll move on to the third question. So tell us, who's your ideal client or ideal avatar?
Yeah. Ideally, I think, like I was sort of talking about before, it's anyone who wants to perform better than they're currently performing, both in and out of the workplace. Like I said, I work with CEOs, I work with stay-at-home mums, people who feel like the way that they're functioning is not the way that they'd love to be able to function. Like something's stopping, something's getting in the way, whether they're overwhelmed by work or they can't seem to prioritize their health, or they just never have enough time for the things that they want to have time for, like the sleep as well. But they come to me for a shakeup. They come to me for expertise on how to show up better and to be able to become more focused on what actually matters most and to feel like they're progressing. And the progressing part is something really, really important. Like there's actually a Harvard study where they spoke to a whole bunch of people, and they actually asked them when their best day at work was. Like that was the question they asked, like when your best day at work was. And majority of people actually replied saying that it was when they experienced a sense of progress. That was it, right? Like the majority of people said exactly the same thing, when they experienced a sense of progress. So when they feel like they achieved more than the day before or the week before or the month before, when they felt like they were growing or they were achieving something or accomplishing something, that's when people are feeling the best. People aren't loving it when they're just going through the motions, just cruising Monday to Friday. And that's why we start going, oh, can't wait for Saturday, because they're not actually progressing. So with the work that I do, I get them really clear on what they want. And that is a big freaking question for people to be able to answer. And a lot of people have no idea what it is that they want. And it definitely is my superpower, because I get it out of every single person, which is really exciting to get them really clear on what it is that they want in this one life of theirs. And then we start to progress. We start to map out how you actually get to this dream that you've been wanting, or this goal that you've been wanting to achieve, because when you are progressing each and every day, you feel so much more fulfilled. So people who want to feel fulfilled, want to love their life, know that they need support, that's the people that I work with.
Very cool. So I'll move on to the last question. Thank you so much for that gold nuggets, Candice.
Yeah.
And the last question is, so give us some ideas or information to prolong our lifelong longevity.
No, let's prolong. Let's just live forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So I think my biggest mantra that I live by myself, and I encourage my clients or anyone who'll listen to me, to be honest, Dr. Scott, I say the same thing. And that mantra is bod before biz. That's it. Bod before biz. And it really is about prioritizing you. Making sure that, like, it's exactly like you were just saying before we hit record, that you went for a walk this morning with a couple of guys, which I absolutely love. Did you call it your man walk? Did you say your man walk?
Oh, yeah, I didn't create it. There's about 50 of them now. It started off with 6.
Oh, great.
I used to walk past them every morning, and then one morning they said, and then I knew a couple of guys that were actually walking in the group. I was like, okay, I must start joining them, and yeah.
So great. But that's exactly like you're doing exactly what I truly believe is one of the rules that will help you to attain an incredible life and a healthy life, right? Because we don't just want to get old. Like I think that that's something that a lot of people think is the goal. Like I want to live until I'm 101 or whatever it is. And it's like, you don't want to live to 101 and feel sore and feel like you wish you moved more when you were younger, or you wish you didn't eat as much crap, or you fueled your body better and all that kind of thing. Like that's one of my biggest goals, and my husband and I talk about that all the time, because we do have a very relatively healthy life. We're not complete saints, let's be honest. We sometimes eat rubbish, but we want to be able to be those old people that are healthy. And we all see those people, whether they're walking on the beach or they're on holidays and they are very old and they're walking around and they're living life still. And it's like, that's what I want to be. And the only way that we can get to that is if we prioritize ourselves. And as hard as that feels sometimes, especially even this time of year when it feels hectic and busy and you have a mammoth to-do list, and I'm the same. Today I've got so many things that I need to smash out, but I still was at the gym at 5 a.m. I still went for my walk straight afterwards at 6 while I was speaking to clients, all that kind of thing, because I know that future me will be pretty friggin' proud of me for getting that done and putting myself before business and everything else. Because when I do that, I'm a happier Candice Harvey, and no one wants the alternative. We want to be able to set ourselves up for success. So that's my thing. Bod before biz.
Beautiful. Thanks very much for that gold nugget.
You're welcome.
So please, Candice, I'll get my VA to give you the links to my 3 platforms. And if you can put your details in those platforms, and then people who want to ask you questions, because this will be on there forever.
Yeah.
Well, until Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn say, no, you can't put it up there anymore.
Yeah.
it'll be there for you. Yeah, your details, if you can put that up so people can get in contact with you and ask questions about those gold nuggets.
Sure.
All right. Thanks very much, Candice. And you've been watching the Get Busy Livin podcast. And thank you so much for your time, Candice.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Catch you later. Have a good day.